Hello my friends on YouTube and Facebook land and all the social medias. I come back to you today wanting to do another follow-up video on the Robert Lockhart story and fasting and dry fasting. You know, I've already made a part 1 to this story, and you can check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But I already made a part 1 of this video, and then after the video had came out, the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which was a really amazing festival that they had up in Woodstock, New York, every August of the year, and that Robert Lockhart had been going to it for several years. You know, I think really he'd been going to it since the beginning of the time that they started having it. You know, and I think they started it back in early 2010s. I think it was 2011 or something like that. You know, because me and Kaylee, we got to go in 2014, and that's where we met Dr. Robert Lockhart. But what I wanted to do today is the reason why I wanted to make this video and make a follow-up video to the first one is that the Woodstock Fruit Festival posted a lot more extra info about his story on their Instagram page. And I wanted to read some of it because it's just new information that can help us to talk about this topic in more depth and detail on top of what I already covered in the first part. So I'm going to read to you off of their Instagram page, you know, the story that they wrote, and we're going to go over some of the highlights and the points that we didn't know about before, you know. On November 29th at 6 p.m., Robert Lockhart, a true pioneer of the fruitarian diet and lifestyle and a valued returning presenter at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, has passed away at the age of 75. Robert lived an incredibly active, vibrant, and full life till the very end, traveling with his wife, Rihanna, planting fruit trees, developing his little piece of paradise in the Philippines, hiking, swimming, sprinting, walking on his hands as a morning routine, free climbing coconut trees, promoting the fruitarian lifestyle, and working at it in his chiropractic clinic. He lived with passion and open mind, always ready to expand his horizons, learn new things, master new skills, travel to new locations, always generous with his time and his knowledge with those seeking his counsel. He was an inspiration, a role model, a hero to many. He was a teacher and a friend. We were not ready to lose him so soon. We believed that he would want us to learn from his passing, just as we have been continually learning from him when he was living. See, that's the whole reason why I'm making these videos, is so that we can learn from this situation and this experience from this man's story of his life. Robert's blood test done in 2015 showed that his kidneys were functioning at about 65% their capacity. Well, that already shows that evidently something in his lifetime had been damaging his kidneys in some way. Either those were old genetic weaknesses from his past, you know, something was happening that was putting some strain and some pressure on his kidneys and lowering the proper function of his kidneys. And see, it's very possible that he could have inherited that from his mother, you know. So see, that shows that, see, he started having some issues, and we don't really know if that was conditions that were from the past or if that was some things that were happening from the last several years that he had been trying the dry fasting and other things that he was doing that could have been putting strain on his kidneys. But it shows right off the bat that he had some kind of a genetic weakness and some kind of major weaknesses that was going on in his kidneys a few years even before it really started getting real bad on him, you know, because he just started, it probably just kept on degrading as it went along. Because another guy that went to the fruit festival a lot, and that he actually was one of the guys from England that went to the England Fruit Festival. He was at the fruit festival when me and Kaylee were there in 2014, and he had talked to Robert many years, you know, and he mentioned something about that that his brother was a doctor and he knew a lot about, you know, proper kidney function, and his brother said that 65% kidney function, it means already in the medical field that you're in danger of having kidney failure, you know, already at that stage, you know. So that just shows that, you know, he already was predisposed to having kidney problems, you know, earlier in his, and we don't even know how well, his kidneys were functioning even before he even started the raw food lifestyle and the fruitarian lifestyle. He could have had those issues from his own young childhood, you know. We don't really know, you know, really don't. That's the thing, is that we didn't see a good shot of his eyes for an eye, you know, to see what his eyes said that would have showed his genetic weaknesses in his kidneys and his nervous system and those areas of the body. That's why an iridology reading is so vital, you know. And then we didn't have him fill out a health questionnaire, or we didn't see a health questionnaire from him that would have gave some of the history on some of the symptoms he could have been experiencing throughout his life in these different areas of the body. You know, so we didn't know that information. That's why with all of my clients, before I advise them on any kind of protocols, I always, you know, get a good shot of their eyes, and I give them an iridology reading, and I have them fill out a very detailed health questionnaire so that I can fully understand everything that their body's going through before I advise them on too much health advice, you know. Okay, I'll keep going. About 6 weeks ago, in mid-October, Robert noticed some phlegm in his throat and corresponding shortness of breath when doing his usual sprinting workouts with Rihanna. He thought it was simple mucus elimination and didn't pay much attention to it until it didn't clear up after about 2 weeks. He decided to speed things up along by undertaking a 3-day dry fast. During the dry fast, he kept up his usual routine, working in his clinic despite very hot and dry weather. See, that's more extra information that we didn't know before. And see, there in Australia, especially North Australia, it can get quite hot and dry, you know, which a lot of Australia it can get in, you know, anyways. And we don't know if he was in the Philippines or if he was in Australia, because he lived in both places. I'm not sure if that was there in Australia or in the Philippines, but they're both really hot weather, you know, and so it can, you know, get really hot and dry. And see, that was probably putting even more pressure on his body. And he was already systemically congested with lymphatic waste, probably even going back before he started becoming a raw foodist and a fruitarian. He probably never properly detoxed his body out, you know, from beforehand. I mean, we don't know. I talked about this in the first video, but that's probably what happened, because see, he didn't use herbs that we know of, and he didn't believe in detoxification and cleansing of the body with the power of herbs and you know, doing these certain things that help get out all the old waste from the lymphatic system and the other eliminative channels. You know, so that's probably one of the things that was going on, is his body was quite backed up from lots of buildup and trash that he had not, you know, gotten out. Because also remember, you know, all food creates metabolic waste, you know, so, you know, that could have been another thing that just started building up from just eating the raw foods, you know, too. The dry fast did not resolve the phlegm issue, which gradually brought on coughing. After the fast, his breathing difficulties continued and reached the point where he started having trouble sleeping at night. Although he broke the fast, he didn't eat much over the next 2 weeks due to the general feeling of weakness and not being quite well. He kept saying that he just needed a rest. He needed to rest and take it easy. Finally, about 2 weeks after the dry fast, Jeanette Murray Walken and Alan Murray helped Robert's wife Rihanna and his daughters Maya Robertson and Tulani Lockhart tried to convince him to go to the hospital and seek medical assistance. The testing showed elevated levels of potassium in the bloodstream, indicating that Robert's kidneys were failing. The doctors in the hospital believe that Robert's dry fasting regime has done significant damage to his kidneys over the years. The scan also showed that his kidneys were smaller than normal. See, if they were smaller than normal, then that already shows that he had already a strong weakness in that area, and that they may have been genetically smaller than normal. And see, that shows that that may have been something he was born with, you know, and that shows that he probably his whole life was challenged with just having weak kidneys and you know, and other body organs, you know, and that's very common sometimes, and that's another reason why we have to do a lot of things to help our, you know, genetics and our DNA to become stronger. And that's where we use the power of the herbs and the things that help to strengthen our DNA and our, you know, and give us a lot more nutrients, vitamins, and minerals than just the fruits and vegetables will provide, you know. His normal potassium levels in the blood, the normal potassium levels in the blood is 3.5 to 5.0 milliequivalents per liter. Potassium levels between 5.1 and 6.0 reflect mild hyperkalemia, medical term from abnormally elevated level of potassium. Potassium levels of 6.1 to 7.0 are moderate hyperkalemia, and levels above 7 are severe. Robert's potassium was 6.8. Normal blood levels of potassium are critical for maintaining normal heart electrical rhythm. Modern hyperkalemia can produce EKG changes, and severe hyperkalemia can cause suppression of electrical activity to the heart and can cause the heart to stop beating. The doctors attributed the difficulty of breathing to pneumonia, which caused an accumulation of water in the lungs. After the diagnosis, Robert stayed in the hospital for the next 7 days and seemed to be getting better at first, with his urine getting clear after a few days, but the stress of being in the hospital contributed to him going down again. About 5 days into his stay, he had an episode of abnormally fast heart rate above 140 beats per minute in a resting state. The doctor prescribed a medication to stimulate the heart into functioning properly as it was getting weaker. Well, see, that medication only probably made it harder on his body, because his body was probably very sensitive to those added medications or things like that his body wasn't used to, because he had been so clean all those years of not taking that kind of stuff. Rihanna was bringing fresh fruit and greens to him, but he had to be careful with his choice of fruit due to the elevated potassium issue due to his failing kidneys, and to limit himself to only small quantities of some of his favorite fruit. On Saturday night, November the 23rd, 2 days after his abnormally fast heartbeat episode, Robert had a cardiac arrest twice within 10-minute period. Cardiac arrest is different from a heart attack. A heart attack occurs when the blood supply to part of the heart stops as a result of blocked artery and causes a section of the heart muscle to begin to die, whereas a cardiac arrest occurs when the heart stops beating as a whole. Robert was revived and taken to ICU, where he stayed for the next 5 days. The heart scan showed that his heart was enlarged due to the stress of having to work hard and struggle to pump the blood in his body with failing kidneys. While in ICU, additional testing revealed melanosis, an infectious disease caused by a bacterium called Buccochlamydia pseudomela, found in contaminated water and soil that spread to humans and animals through direct contact. This bacterial infection is what caused Robert's phlegm issues, pneumonia, and breathing difficulties. Well, that's not necessarily true. He could have had the problems with the phlegm and all of that just from the buildup of mucus and lymphatic congestion in his body, and his immune system could have been down some. Why would his immune system be down some? Because the lymphatic system was too dirty, and that he needed to clean up the lymphatic system some so that he could get that mucus to come out of the body, and also his immune system would have been stronger, so he wouldn't have had problems with the bacteria, So again, he needed to do a good detox and use the herbs, in my humble opinion. Robert was administered a strong dose of intravenous antibiotics to deal with the bacteria. Robert has never had antibiotics in his entire life, and this was extremely stressful on his body, especially since his failing kidneys were in no position to deal with eliminating additional toxins. For a body as clean as Robert's, it was too much. See, that's what I was talking about, is that I knew off the bat, I even said that from the first video that I did, is that I knew that they gave him an antibiotic, because anytime the medical association, anytime that you're going to come to them and you have problems with bacteria, especially if they do a blood test and detect that you have a source of bacteria in your body, then they're going to give you an antibiotic. That's just their routine and how they operate. And it's very sad because that's the last thing that he needed, because as I said in the first video, antibiotics can make you have kidney failure too. So they probably contributed to the cause of his death. All the chemicals, the extra stress from the medical association and being in the hospital, and also the antibiotic that he had to be exposed to, that is probably what is one of the contributing factors of what made his body finally fail and his kidneys finally fail, and then it put extra stress on his heart. And let's see, it says, on Friday, November 29th, the doctor said that although a scan of Robert's brain showed no major damage, his internal organs were failing. He developed leaky heart valves, which measured an ejection fraction of 15 to 20% at most, and that's under medical stimulation. 5 days after his cardiac arrest, his enlarged heart was not showing any signs of healing. Out of respect for Robert's wishes, Rahani, Tulani, and Maya and the doctors made a joint decision to let him go peacefully without being plugged into any machines or being stimulated by medication. When they disconnected these breathing support tubes, Robert was still breathing on his own and his body visibly relaxed. It seemed that he experienced a relief. They let him decide on his own in peace. And at approximately 6 p.m. that day, Robert's heart stopped beating once again. And it says up here, Robert was a true pioneer of the fruitarian diet. He started on this path some 40 years ago when there was no internet and no movement. He had no roadmap. He had to create a roadmap. Like many of us, he experienced such an incredible improvement in his well-being, and he did not know where was the limit. Was there a limit? How healthy can we be? Was there a place for medical intervention? With few people around which as much experience on this lifestyle as he had, Robert had to answer most of those questions for himself. He pushed ahead and lived the most vibrant and incredible life he could. His passion for life and commitment to life lived to the fullest, to experience every bit of the joy possible, to walk the path he believed in with vigor and exhilaration is what inspires us the most. Today we are celebrating Robert Lockhart's life. Rest in peace, legend. Yes, and see, that's what I wanted to mention about, is that, you know, he did the best that he could with the knowledge that he had, you know, and I just feel sad because I wonder why he never, you know, wanted to do the herbs. He never wanted to try to use herbs. He never, you know, was he one of those people, you know, I talked about this in the first video, was he one of those people that was what do they call them? I'm trying to think of the name. A natural hygienist. Was he a natural hygienist and he just didn't believe in the power of herbs and he thought that herbs were toxic for some reason or something? You know, who knows? You know, we don't really know without asking his family, and they may not even know because it may have just not been something that they talked about, you know. But it's just sad because I feel like personally that the herbs and doing more juicing instead of doing all the dry fasting could have possibly saved his life, because so many of the herbs and essential oils are very antibacterial and very antiseptic and antiviral, and I truly feel, in my opinion, that if he tried to use the herbs and the essential oils, he could have beat that bacteria. He could have helped his immune system recover. He could have used the herbs to help cleanse and purify his body, to help his body to detox, and they would have helped strengthen his kidneys. There's so much benefits from the herbs in so many ways, and guys, we have to remember that. That's the takeaway that I want to leave with everyone in these videos, is that I just feel like he didn't have enough tools in his tool bag to be able to handle the life's challenges that were thrown at him. But out of respect for him and his family, he did the best he could with the knowledge that he had. And so that's why I send to him and his family lots of love and respect for what he had to go through and what he had to experience, and what his family had to go through and experience also. You know, so guys, I hope that this video adds to the other video that I did. And thank you so much for watching today. You know, please give me a thumbs up. Please like this video. Please share it. And also, please, if I can give you an eye reading or a health question, a herbal protocol, or do some health coaching with you, or help you with detoxification in any way, just please reach out to me. I love to help people on this journey to Wellville. But I hope everyone's journey to Wellville is balanced spiritually, mentally, and physically. Take care, my friends. Have yourself a wonderful one. Bye-bye.